Okay, this is a game in the TVP VTU, the Tier 8 medium check tank. It's a decent tank. It has okay mobility. It's a little bit fragile. It has two gun options, an 88 and a 100. I feel like the 88 is the better option. You'll see that the gun control, even on the 88, isn't super great as far as the aim time and dispersion. And so it's barely adequate for the frame. To me, the tank plays a little bit reminiscent of like the Indian Panzer, except with a tad more mobility and less. It's certainly more fragile. Okay, and so Mountain Path North Spawn. We're going to head out to this southwest here, especially given the comps of these teams. Neither team has a whole lot of armor. They have an STI, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is reasonably fast, and so as in every game, you always want to look and see what your team is doing like 30 to 60 seconds into the match, and most of our team is coming down here to this southwest. That's good to know. We have a couple of guys setting up on the bridge, so we have decent coverage in terms of figuring out where everything is. We just need to sort of keep an eye on how everything goes. So we spot their T-37s over there. We know that their TVP is over here, and it's just about figuring out the intel. And as we sort of come over into this area, we're going to be able to find out where the rest of their tanks are. And this T-49 is a little bit overextended, and he already fired, so I know I can get a free shot on him there, and I want to be able to try to take him out if I can. They've got a couple of T-54 in the back, a T-54 and a T-54 Proto, but neither of them are really covering that guy from my side. And so what I'm really looking for here is just, we're at this point, most of our team is up here, right? We don't have a whole lot of intel about them in terms of the rest of the map, but when we look at the way that they're situated, they actually have a pretty good defense here. See how they have a medium over here. You actually probably want a little bit more than one. They've got a couple guys over here. This T-54E1 back here isn't really helping them out. And so they actually have multiple lines of fire as we come through here, but there's also multiple sort of lines of protection. So like from where I'm at, for example, only these guys over here can shoot at me, and so they actually have a pretty good defense if somebody tries to push in here, right? Because if we try to push in towards the Centurion 7-1, then these guys can shoot in and these guys can pop out and shoot out as possible. So they're in a reasonable position where if they try to help each other, they'll be able to do well. And so when you're up against this sort of configuration where pushing in means you have to push into flanking shots, ideally what you want to be able to do is take down one flank or the other first, while minimizing the amount of incoming fire. You don't necessarily want to worry too much about these guys back here. That's not really that big of a deal. So either the Centurion 7-1 or the T-54 T-54 is on the side. And so it's the same thing applies in reverse. If you're these guys on these outsides, you need to be taking shots of opportunity, but you need to make sure that you're not getting whittled down, because once you die, then these guys can't do a whole lot, right? If our team pushes into you, then these guys can shoot, this guy can shoot. But if you just sit out here and you die, then there's nothing that these guys can do to stop it. And so when you're on the fringes like that, you need to play a little bit more conservative. You still need to get your shots, but you can't trade poorly. And same thing with these guys back here. If you're in the sort of the back line, you have to be able and willing to defend those guys from being pushed. And so where this T-54 Proto is at is a good position when there's no artillery. It's a really bad position if there is artillery, because it's very easy to bomb out. But in this particular case, because there is no artillery, it's actually a pretty decent position. Because in order to get him down, we have to push him, and there's a lot of people on the side. And see how our 5120 is pushing in here? But even though I have this T-54 Proto locked down in the back, this 5120 is going to struggle up here just because everyone else is going to really be able to get shots on him. And so this T-54 is going to let me permatrack him, or it appears that he's going to let me permatrack him. And so if he's going to do that, you certainly want to be able to take advantage. And this is the argument that I always have why mediums should have repairs over camo, because you don't want to have a lower tier tank permatrack you in a position where you're going to get owned. he decided to fix it there, or I didn't break it. And then, so now we look at what ended up happening is that they've pushed through and they've cleared down in this middle, but this middle is always really vulnerable to once you own this southwest, you can get a lot of shots into the backside of there. They've only got the T-54 Proto down here. The T-54 being down really, really hurts them, right? And these guys right here, they can support a push onto this T-54 Proto to some extent, but they can't really support a push onto the Centurion 7-1 without driving out a little bit to making sure that we can't push him. Which they're not doing right now. And this 34-100 is pushing in, so I'm gonna go into. And now is an appropriate time to do it because this guy's pinned back here. This T-54 is no longer in play, and we're gonna be able to get into this guy without these guys really doing a whole lot to help him. Of course, I bounced a shot, which is not what you want to do. And then we have options here. I need to try to secure this area right here. We've got a TVP over here. We've got more than enough to take care of the T-54 Proto, so I'm going to ignore him for now. Although he is not ignoring me. And I want to be able to take this down because I don't want these guys. So what I'm going to do is just position myself a little bit more forward here where it's not going to be easy for that guy to get shots on me. I'm going to be able to get shots on these guys. And then, but if these guys turn around, I'd rather get shot by the T-54 Proto than by all these guys down here. And it's taking us a little bit longer than I wanted in order to kill that T-54 Proto, but you know, it's great. And I need to make sure that I don't get shot by the SU-152. And that IS-3 is pushed up there, but that's a little bit vulnerable, right? See how they're all coming back, and now he's in a crossfire from the fact that we control this plateau over here. And that's why I always say when you play in this middle bowl, you want to be sure that you are clear of the bowl before the enemy team controls here, because once the enemy team controls here, you'll see that we'll just completely wreck these guys. So if those guys had made their move a little bit earlier, then they would have been fine, but since they are at where they're at right now, it's going to be really easy for us to shoot them and bounce off the rears of IS-3s. And then I just need to make sure that these guys aren't going to help by getting shots on me if I come out here on the SU. And then now it's very easy to get these guys in a pincer. They've taken the ice road, so that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Most of our team is going around this way. So when all of your team goes around one way, if you can, ideally you want to be able to go around onto the flank like this 34-100 is doing.
It's a trap!
And then as soon as this is done, we got to go back to the base. And then it's very simple. All we got to do is defend the ice road. They've got some pretty slow tanks there. It's been a long time though, so I'm not going to go back up the back. I want to be sure that they're not going to be able to get to the cap. Even though I know they're slow, if they just kept moving forward from the last time that we spotted them, they can be all the way back up here. And so that can certainly be a problem. They are still pretty far back though. This STI should be taken down by the Foch. The Foch is still at full health, so I'm not too concerned about that. Our 5100, for whatever reason, is toying with his T-37.
It's a trap!
And then it's just mop up at this point. So even though it looked a little bad early, in terms of our team, pretty much everywhere else did not trade very well. We traded pretty well down here. Their defense didn't play that very well. Their fringes were too aggressive, and their center wasn't aggressive enough in terms of protecting the outsides. And that ended up hurting them, and that's the reason why we ended up trading really well right there. And then now it's just mop up, drive forward as fast as you can. This Foch did a good job. He held this area on his own, and when they started pushing up, he just fell back.
It's a trap!
Luva. Anyway, so as I was saying, I think both teams were configured properly over here, but our team traded better simply because we were able to take down the fringe, particularly that T-54 was a pretty good win for us because that really weakened the outsides, and when they weaken those outsides and they can't sort of protect each other, that's why when we pushed this the Centurion 7-1, the only thing that could fire was the T-54 Proto, right? These guys were too far back. And so we ended up trading very well there. And on in the middle area, we didn't trade very well on the north for the most part. In the middle area, other than the Foch, in the middle area, they didn't move fast enough. And if anything, these guys that were hiding in the back in the middle could have pushed through and cleared out through this area right here. That would have saved them a lot of health. But the fact that we were able to take down all of those tanks right there virtually for free really ended up hurting them. And then it's just a matter of going back to the base and defending, because they were able to just drive up this ice road because we didn't have a whole lot there. So just pretty straightforward. Read the map, see what's going on, and make sure that you react accordingly. And then so if we look at the stats, we were able to get a lot of damage, mostly just because we kept our gun active. The T-54 helped us out a lot by not repairing his tracks, which allowed us to basically hold him on that corner, which again was a pretty huge win for us in terms of taking down one of their top tier fringe tanks, and that allowed us to really push through there without much of a problem, and then clear out the middle. The gun itself, the 88, it's reasonably accurate. It's just the gun control on it kind of sucks. The aim time kind of sucks, and the dispersion on movement or rotation kind of sucks. But the gun itself is not that bad. The DPM is decent. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Anyway, so I hope that was helpful for playing Mountain Pass and sort of playing up against a reasonably good defensive setup and finding areas where you can pick away at it and how to break through it, and as well as a little bit of a primer on the VTU. So I hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching.